Thank you, Denise, for mental telepathying that to me. I heard you. So what would that mean for your business to you have to do some work. I'm not suggesting, you're going to change your energy and you're going to manifest things happening without some work involved. But if you could do that at will, take a week off a month, take Mondays off, because you could turn this skill that I'm going to teach you today on and off on a scale of 1 to 10. What would that mean for your business? 1, nothing. I'm already doing it. You can leave now. You don't need me. Um, Number 10, this could change. This has doubled, if not tripled, my income. And it's different than it was 2 years ago. You have to do additional things. But let me explain this to you. Um, I have been running events since the very beginning of my coaching practice 15 years ago. I used to run events in person. I would run events to come exercise with me. I would run an event to take a spin class with me. And people couldn't get into my spin class, but they'd get this invitation and they could come. So it became like this specialized thing for me. And then personal events, whether it was health coaching, business coaching, positive psychology, not just me speaking at events, but me running events and inviting people too. It has changed a little bit with the online space, and don't worry, I'm going to cover all of that as well. We're also going to cover the things you need in place to run these events and to, after the event, to still be attracting people to you because of the event. And a lot of this is based on my facilitation certification with Exchange, conscious leadership principles, and building better rapport with the people in the room. So we're going to talk about all that today. In-person events can work exactly the same. Everything I'm talking about today applies to in-person events as well. And Richard just mentioned he's back to knocking on some doors, and people are so receptive about actually seeing people in person. All right. Um, Mike says you run events. No, I did not. I did not run any running events, just spinning events. I like to stay in place when I'm exercising. Thanks, Mike. All right. So, pen and paper. I'm going to move fast through these tips and these things you need to have in place before running Attractor events or any type of event. And if you don't get them, don't worry. I'll share the notes with you if that's what you want. Just put it in the chat, put notes in the chat, and I will make sure you get a copy of my notes. So, number 1, streamline checklist. You need a clear understanding of your target audience. You have to understand their pain points, their needs, and what are they willing to pay for, most importantly. And ask yourself, does my ideal client want to talk to me, or do they want to just buy something and do it themselves? Could be a combination of both. And those demographics and psychographics of that person, extremely important when you're doing email invitations or when you're doing social media posts to get that person to the event. You have to know their pain points. And you also have to know, and I'm going to lay out a couple descriptions of my ideal client. Typically male, typically over 50, typically an athlete or former athlete, lots of former military people, people with extensive intellectual property. They love personal development. So as soon as I say love personal development, that's only 5% of the population. 5%. So I'm narrowing that audience who's listening to me, and that's really, really important. All right, number 2, defined event objectives, and goals. And that means specific, measurable goals. I had 60 people registered for this event today. And do I care that all 60 people are not here? Well, yeah, I do. But the people who are here are going to get so much more value than those just watching the recording. So you have to focus on the ones in the room. And I've had events where I've invited 1,000 people and I've had 500 RSVP and there's 25 in the room. And we can't let that affect our performance, our outlook, or our sales. You can't give up, right? Also, if your event objective is to educate, to inspire, or motivate, please don't use slides. Don't. Allow people to connect with you, make eye contact with the dot, and allow people to feel your presence. Very, very important. All right, number 3, a detailed event plan, structured agenda. What's the question I'm going to ask when everybody first joins the room? What's the icebreaker? What am I going to do if somebody asks a question in the middle? You're more than welcome to do that. Just raise your digital hand and I'll answer questions. That doesn't bother me. But if it bothers you and you don't like asking questions on the fly, don't do it. So planning out those formats. I recently did a group coaching program with a group of coaches, and every session of the 7 weeks, I facilitated in a different way so they could actually see that you can facilitate sessions in a different way. Are you going to have Q&A? Are you going to have networking opportunities? Plan that out all in advance. Number 4, what's your marketing and promotion strategy? I've had so many clients over the years that say, I don't want to do marketing. Well, guess what? If you don't do marketing of some sort, doesn't mean spam, doesn't mean DMing people, doesn't mean that it has to feel icky, but people have to know your face. The human brain can only remember 100 people. 100 people, faces, names, what they do, right? Well, but guess what? You can have 1,000 or 10,000 have you be one of their 100. That's still marketing. That's talking to more people. That's hosting one-to-many events. Doesn't have to be thousands of people, but when you have 5, 10, 100 people at an event, you're multiplying the number of people who know your face. Very important. Number 5, tools for engagement and interaction. This is key for enrollment. If you're going to make a sale or if you want referral partners, this is key. And I would argue that this might be the most important thing: engagement and interaction. The ability for people to engage with one another. Every group program I've ever run, that I've ever sold, has been, the comments are, I met great people. I got to hang out with great people. Not only did my clients learn from me, but they learn from the group in the room. That's why I make sure my one-on-one clients actually meet my other one-on-one clients. That's all by design. So plan that out for yourself. How are they going to register? How are you going to email the participants? How are you going to have them interact in the room? And most importantly, how are you going to have them enroll into something afterwards from that event? That's marketing, but it's also planning that out ahead of time. You can't have a networking event that's free and expect to enroll people into your year-long business growth mastermind. It's not going to happen from a networking event. There has to be a sequence involved. Now, if you're doing in-person events, you want to think about logistics. How many people are within that area? You know, the size of the room, tech requirements. I did a speaking event the beginning of May, and the tech was seamless. It was one person sitting behind the stage, handling walk-up music and slideshows, and he was so organized and meticulous with it. It was an awesome experience for me. All right, lastly, number 7, you need a follow-up plan, a strategy for post-engagement. So you see what I did? I told you to put in the comments if you want my notes. That's part of a follow-up plan. Do you want the recording? Yeah. There's 5 people that have already asked for the recording ahead of time. That's a follow-up plan. It's a touch point after your event to remain in touch with those people. Doesn't mean you're going to reach out to them and send them 27 sales emails, but it's a reason to stay in touch with people, bring them into your world and stay connected. What does that look like for you? For some people, it could be just follow me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my newsletter. That might be all you're looking for, but you have to plan that out in the beginning. All right, and the most important one I saved for last, please, please, please know what you're selling. Know what your offer is. If you have 1, if you have 2, or you have 3, know what your offers are. And if somebody asks, be able to say them, talk about them, what's included, who you're looking for without looking at a piece of paper. Be able to communicate what you do, how you offer it, how much it is, and what that looks like so that the person feels like you're not just rehearsing a sales pitch. You have to have that internalized for yourself. And one of the tools I like to use to help me is the bank code system. And if you don't know what that is, I'll put the link in the chat and you can do your own bank code. It's basically, a way of decoding how other people buy. What information does that person you're talking to need from you? And it's not persuasion, it's not manipulation. But if I know Denise is an N and I'm an N, this is why we're connected, why we're friends, because we're both N's. That's how we both talk. But if I go to a person who's a knowledge person and I talk N, N is nurture. Drew's a nurturer too, I bet. And if I talk that way to a knowledge person, they're never going to buy from me. So this is really important to know. And can you talk all 4 ways? Yes, absolutely, you can. And I'm just really excited to be able to do that. So if you want to take your bank code, I'm going to put that link in the chat for you. It's totally free. I'm not going to follow up with you. It's basically just to figure that out for yourself. And if you want to know more, I don't sell it. I just use it. So I'll connect you with Michelle Murder if you don't already know her. Martine, good to see you. Doug, good to see you. David, Milo, please put in the chat 1 to 10 what having 40 people attracted to you a week would do for your business. 1, nothing. I already have that. Number 10, life-changing, double your income, triple your income. That's just for my own research. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to pause. Questions so far about all of these things you need in place to run your events? Go ahead, David.
Well, you and I have talked about this many times, and so I think it'd be neat for any current comments from you about this particular subject, and then maybe to the group. The group mastermind always comes up with better ideas than just 1 or 2 of us. And that's what you just said about you can invite 1,000 people, 500 register, 100 say they're coming, and 30 people show up. Is just any other techniques that you and I haven't heard of or other ways to try to increase that number. I noticed in this event, this was probably my third or fourth registration reminder today, about 2 hours ago. The event starts in 2 hours. I think there was one this morning, there was one yesterday, there's the one the day before. I already had it circled on my calendar, 1 o'clock on Thursday and so forth. But I just would love to get any other ideas that people might have about how you increase that percentage. I mean, when I register for something, I generally plan to go, but clearly that's not the case for a lot of people. So just any thoughts around that might be helpful.
Well, number one for me has been personal relationships. Everybody in this room has either talked to me, had a relationship with me, knows who I am, has seen me speak, like, or, I'm not as close with some of you, but you know who I am. And that goes back to what I said. People can come to your events, but they don't you're not one of their 100 people. So get to be one of people's 100 people. And how do we do that? More one-on-ones, more connection, more voice messages, and deeper connection with the people that we're inviting. And it's not always about numbers for me. Um, you could speak to a relatively small group, and depending on your offers, still do really, really well financially as a coach or a consultant or whatever type of business you have. Number two, referral partners. You know, ask people to invite. I don't do that anymore because I don't want to do it for other people. Does that make sense? So, um, so I struggle with that because every time I invite, if I invited this room to an event of somebody I didn't really know that well, what happens when they go to that event and they're like, Sue, that sucked. That was spammy. All she did was talk about herself. And then she's messaging me 40 times to buy her stupid stuff. That's why I don't do it.
Yeah.
So I will do it for somebody I know really well because I know they're not going to do that. Any of my clients have been trained not to do that. So I would invite people to your event, David, but it has to be super intentional with the person you're asking. Like, Suzanne, will you email your list 2 weeks before my event? Will you look at the list of people who registered and tell me who's yours and tell them you're looking forward to seeing them at my event? Yes, of course, I would do that for you. And then third, market it everywhere. Share the link for your event everywhere. Every YouTube video, every short that you do, every Facebook post, and in the comments. So if I comment on Mike O'Neill's post on LinkedIn and somebody comments on my comment, I'm going to start a conversation with them if I have time. And that's somebody else to invite to my event. So responding to comments is number one. That's the best new relationship starter. And it's the hardest thing to do. Hardest thing to do. Um, I love that, Denise, that you sent people to an event and it was terrible. And it makes you look bad. It makes you look bad. So unless you've vetted the person, don't do it. Don't do it. I know that affiliate marketing is huge and that, advertising someone else's program could make you money. But I say, no, don't do that. Drew, did you have a question?
It was more like a thing. I like what you do during these events when we pop on. You stop what you're saying and you acknowledge everybody by their first name. It puts a comfort level into the person who shows up a few minutes after everybody and makes them feel part of the effort. And then you'll get more contribution from them because you acknowledge them. So I like that. And I also like every now and then I do get voice messages from you either on WhatsApp or on LinkedIn, just saying hi, checking in. Sometimes there's an action, like I sent you an email, Drew, but I
Mhm.
like that because we can't remember everything. And it also makes us feel like someone's thinking about us. So I
Yeah.
like those touch points that you do.
Yeah, and that's part of, when I deciphered, okay, who is Suzanne and why does this work so much of the time for me? And it's those things that make the difference. Daniel Andrews said, I have the ability of making everyone feel like they're my favorite person. I do what? Really? I do that? Awesome. How do I do it more? How do I pour gasoline on that, but still in a really authentic way? I can't do it with more than 100 people. You can't. But how do I take those 100 people and really pour into those people so that when it comes time to recommend me or invite, they think of me and not someone else. All right, any other Justin, go ahead.
Just something to add for David. A tip that I learned from a guy, T.R. Garland, who lives in California, which is segment your Facebook friends list via the comment. So Suzanne was saying about like nurturing, what does my wife call it? Babysitting the comments.
Mm,
So when you start getting that engagement, like put them in a list that says, hey, these guys respond to my posts. And then what happens is that will keep popping up on your timeline. So to keep commenting on their stuff. And then all of a sudden they go, well, our relationship is deepened.
mhm,
And that's really helpful in terms of you can do that by region, you can do that by behavior. And so that's really helpful. And also you can do it by industry. So say, for example, you're a coach and you serve coaches. That's really helpful. By territory, again, I'm in New Zealand, but I serve the US. See, so I have to constantly think about where I'm getting stuff from. I've got like 3,000 people on my page. I can't, you know what I
mhm.
mean? I've got to get clear on that. That's really helpful in terms of doing that. Hopefully, that gives you some insight into something you could do on your social media to get a little bit clearer on who are they and are they any good?
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
because quality controls everything. Thanks,
yes.
Suzanne.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the input. I just put the tool I use, Evie AI or Evie AI. It's a tool that attaches to your LinkedIn profile. And that tool, it'll comment for you. I don't really use it for the comments. I use it to save profiles. So, you know, you're all probably saved on a list somewhere in Evie, and you're categorized. Are you a coach? Are you a podcast guest potential? Do you have a podcast? Did I meet you at this group or that group? And I categorize people. And this way I have an action list. If I have an event coming up in September for coaches, I'm going to be visiting my list of coaches and talking to them on a regular basis. And I can go right to their activity feed, comment on posts, and send messages from Evie without visiting someone's profile like a stalker. So hope that makes sense. It's a little extra tip.
That URL is not right. The evy.ai. I just checked it out.
All right, let me
Must
check.
be something else. Sounds awesome.
Oh, evyai.com. Sorry.
Awesome.
Sorry. All right. Now here's my link in the comments for the Google Drive folder. I love worksheets and resources to make your planning easier. This is everything you need to plan your attractor events, from the person you want in the room to your topic, everything you need. And there's 5 worksheets in that folder. You don't need to look at it now. This is for printing out and sitting down and figuring out your event. And then we're going to move on if there's no other questions. No, we're good? All right.
The question, Suzanne,
Yeah.
on Evie, does it automatically integrate with the CRM?
What CRM?
More than likely, I'll probably go with Zoho.
Okay. No, but they're working on that to be able to pull emails from your LinkedIn. It's more just to keep track of different people from different places and be able to go and send messages and comment on their stuff. So I have a list of people that's influencers I follow, people with over 50,000 followers on LinkedIn who I love their content. I comment on their posts. So it's a way to, oh yeah, I have these 20 influencers I follow, and I can click on each one right to their activity feed, most recent post, comment out, next one, comment out, next one. Don't get distracted by the feed. So it's sped up the commenting and the relationship building for me. Okay. All right. Now, the next step in all of this is making your events better. So I think once you have all those elements in place, attendees can have a bigger impact after your event. Memorable experiences are huge. If it's boring, if your host is just about selling you or telling you how great they are, well, you're not going to ever want to go back. So memorable experiences that lift people up, that teach them something, that inspire something. So I can tell you that 190 people I've connected with in the last year, one-on-one on a Zoom, and out of those 190 people, 95% did not have what they needed in place to attract people to them and actually profit from that. Well, to me, that's like an opportunity to teach this workshop and say, these are the things you need in place. And if you don't have these things in place, I have an answer. I have an answer for that too. But marketing plan, content pillars, content plan, video scripts to attract people. If you don't have all of that in place and you'd like to spend the next 30 days with me getting all of that in place, I'm going to put a link in the chat, and this is my sales pitch, and that's all you're going to get. There you go. And now we'll go on to the tips. These tips for hosting events are from my facilitation training with the company called Exchange, starts with an X and change, and conscious leadership. And what that could look like for you is, number one, design your event with purpose. Define the purpose, the goals. We talked about that in the list of things you needed to have in place, but it's so important to have that intention behind it. Like if Drew just said, oh, I want to have a group for men, but he didn't put a purpose and a mission and a reason for it behind, it's not going to work. Number two, encourage vulnerability. And everybody says psychological safety is the number one thing in the workplace. It's important on Zoom too. It's important to know when you send people into breakout rooms that it's not going to be a crazy free-for-all. You have to have control of that situation. So fostering that safe space where people feel comfortable to talk, like Justin and I just got to know each other. We've had one call and he felt comfortable enough to add value to the meeting. That's a huge compliment to our relationship, but also to the fact that I created a space where people feel comfortable doing that. It's huge. So how about setting some ground rules at the beginning? I ask you to put information in the chat. I tell you, if you have questions, raise your hand at any time. So automatically, I'm giving you that autonomy to be interactive at the event. But also, excuse me, keeping your mic muted when you're not speaking. How many of you have cracked up laughing because you've been at an event and you heard somebody watching a YouTube video over here, or you heard somebody talking in the background? The best one last week, I was on an event and the person's not muted and talking on the phone. Please be aware of yourself and don't do stuff like that at your events. All right, number 3, let's talk about breakout rooms.
Before you do, set up
Yes.
your meeting so people enter the room muted.
Yes, set up your event so
knocks
people
out 90%
enter
of it.
in muted, or
Yeah.
mute all after everybody's in there,
This
right?
morning, the meeting we were at, I came in not knowing I wasn't muted and said something to somebody, and oh, I'm not muted.
Oops. Good thing it was nothing off color, Milo. Woohoo!
At that meeting, it wouldn't have mattered.
Well, it wouldn't. Yeah, it wouldn't have. All right, so breakout rooms, they're perfect for those small group discussions, and this is something David always does, and it encourages conversations with 2 or 3 people. Now, this is the little secret: no more than 3 people in your breakout rooms, and I'm going to tell you why. If you have 2 and you have 1 quiet and 1 talker, well, guess what happens? The quiet person doesn't get to say anything. But if you have 3, odds are you're going to get 2 talkers or 2 quiets or some combination of people with 3. And give the boundary. I'm going to send you into breakout rooms, parties of 3. You're going to have 5 minutes, take about a minute, 15 seconds each, and do XYZ. So you're going to give those boundaries in the beginning of your breakout rooms. And do that by enrolling people into the breakout rooms. If you get a room full of people that are not used to talking to other people, maybe they don't network, maybe they're just coming to your workshop. Well, you want to enroll them in the breakout room process. Why it's important. Okay, in a few minutes, we're going to go into breakout rooms. And what you're going to do is you're going to discuss X, Y, and Z. The reason I'm sending you into breakout room, party of 3, is because I want you to have these smaller discussions. And then when you come back to the main room, I'm going to ask for a couple voices to share what you talked about in the breakout room. You will get more information from your tribe. You will get more engagement from your tribe. And you don't need to be the sage on the stage. You can actually pull wisdom from the room, and it's really fun. David.
Just a quick tip on that. I can't remember if it was you, Suzanne, or somebody else. It was my mastermind last month or the one before, where you or somebody else made a suggestion to your point that you just brought up, which was extremely helpful. And that is select somebody from your group to be the spokesperson. So you didn't just say, I'm going to ask for whatever you get, because then people just sit there and just stare at you like this. But when we said select a spokesman, all the hands went up and they were the one designated to report back on.
Yeah.
In the case of mine, there's 3 questions that we have for each one and stuff, but that was really helpful. And the engagement just tripled when we did it that way.
Yes. Yes. Very good. Great tip. And it did come from me. I just don't give all of my secrets away, but that's okay. That's okay. It's okay. You can see, that's a testament of I'm not your guru. You just learned from David. You learned from Justin. And you all have something so valuable. And if you don't have those resources in place and the confidence in place to be running your own events, then let's have a conversation about that. But otherwise, you can do all the things I'm talking about and actually pull more people towards you. Does it require writing posts on social media? Yeah, just for awareness. Does it require being on video once in a while? Yes, you need to do that, whether you have a podcast or you're going to have conversations. But if you're nervous about doing those things, do it with someone else. Do an interview series. David and I get together every Friday And since I was sick, we haven't done it, but we're going to resume this Friday and we have a conversation about a topic. We record it and then we break it up into micro content. So if you're nervous about going on social media to do that, partner up with somebody and have those conversations and then break it up and share it on social media. And every single one of those little 1.5 or 1 minute clips that I share of David and I talking, it's either my wisdom coming out or his. It's not both of us talking in the 1 minute. And guess what? 200 to 400 views every single one that I share. And that's not about those 400 people subscribing or becoming clients. This is physical awareness. Oh, who's that person? Who's that person? There she is again. There's that bald guy. There's that gratitude guy again. And now he has 10,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. Woohoo! Yay! Yay, David. Right? And it's just that awareness piece. Interactive content. Use and learn Zoom. If you're going to be on Zoom running more than an hour-long event, make it interactive, make it dynamic. Q&A segments, interactive polls. Zoom has a whiteboard. You can draw pictures. You could have people draw pictures. You can share files in the chat. You can share links in the chat. So interactive content. Make your participants think, and most importantly, make them write something. Huge, huge. People who have to write something, take a note, or do homework in your session, they remember it more than just going to some boring PowerPoint presentation. Personalization, registration process, emailing attendees, customize parts of the event based on the people in the room. If this was a room full of attorneys, we wouldn't be having the same conversation. If this was a room full of health coaches, we would not be having the same conversation. I'm going to tailor that talk and the presentation to who I see registered as much as possible, right? So you're inviting a tailored group of people, you're tailoring your content specifically, and only inviting those people. Be a better facilitator. Yes, please be a better facilitator. If you're interested in becoming a better facilitator, let me know and I'll invite you to a session with the group I'm a part of. Promote active learning. Encourage participants to learn from each other. I already said that. But also encourage people to go and learn on their own. My favorite book about facilitation is Conscious Leadership. My second favorite book is called Belong. And the book Belong is by Maya Agarwal. And it's a very simple book. You could probably read it in 1 or 2 nights. But it talks about how people remember events, sights, smells, in-person events, and how to actually build those relationships at scale. I don't know if you noticed, but when I'm on Zoom, I always show my hands. It's for a reason. Yeah, you too, Doug. Always show your hands. Why? Anybody know why? No, seriously, anybody know why?
Nothing
Yeah,
to hide.
trust.
Yes.
Trust. Nothing to hide yet.
Yes. It builds trust. What else builds trust on Zoom?
The fact that you look into the microphone and not at us. I mean, you do briefly here and there,
Yes.
but mostly you're looking at your camera.
Yes. What else? Anybody else notice anything else that I do? I'm not.
Smile.
You
Oh,
smile.
yeah, always.
Yes, I was going to say that too. Smile.
Always smile. But I'm not static. I move when I start to lose people. So if I see people looking over here or not engaging with me, by me moving, it brings people's attention back to what we're doing. And lastly, this is really good. I love to actually lean in. See what I did there? I brought you closer. And when I do that, don't be too close. Like, know your box. Know your box. We all know a couple people who talk way too close to the camera. But if you're normally here and you really want people to pay attention and hear you, I do this in my coaching sessions, I do it with my groups, and I do it with every event. Lean in. Lean in. Talk softer. Change the pitch of your voice. And then when it comes to your sales pitch at an event, talk a little louder and a little firmer and a little more masculine, ladies. When someone says, how much is it? So I'm talking like this, and we're having this great conversation about working together. Maybe it's one person, maybe it's 100 people. And somebody says, how much is it? My voice is going to go down. And there's a bunch of skills, with the voice intonation. And what you'll notice, people from other countries who English is not their first language talk very monotone. They don't do that up and down. They don't raise their eyebrows, make facial expressions because they're trying so hard to speak English. Just do it. Just vary your voice. Okay, lastly, promotion. And this is where everybody gets screwed up. Every channel that you're on. Every channel. Now, did you know that only 10% of your followers will see any given post? 10%. So if you have 10,000 followers, you're only getting 10% to see that post you made on Monday. So what does that mean? Post every day. Post every day. And if you're having an event, post 3 times a week. And don't do it for just a week. This event was only promoted for a week, and I got 60 people signed up. And then this many people are in the room. A normal event for me is promoted for 6 weeks. 6 weeks before I do a bigger event. My standard events that happen every month, well, that's something different. But if you want to do an event for your ideal client and you want to sell something that's $500, $3,000, $10,000, $20,000, you need to be promoting that event for 6 to 8 weeks on all your channels, in all your conversations. And my email expert tells me 3 emails a week, and that's nauseating to me. I don't want to send anybody 3 emails a week because I unsubscribe from anybody who emails me that much. So I email once a week during a promotional time, but every single email isn't a sales email. There might be a little blurb of, don't forget, this is happening. But to me, I don't want that, so I can't do it. So you have to find that cadence that's right for you. And again, if that promotion feels like a lot, well, guess what? Everybody's doing events. Everybody's trying to get their ideal client in the Zoom room. How many networking groups are there? I know you all know of at least 20 that you could be a part of, right? So all of those people are vying for attention. And it's nowhere near saturated, but get out of the box when it comes to promotion. One of the things I suggested was do a Google search for businesses in your town. So Drew, Mike, I think I mentioned this to you this week. If your target is a CEO to participate or hire you, what better CEO to find than one that lives around the corner from you? And when I did this search last week, I forgot that 5 doors down is the dentist that owns the biggest dental practice in my whole county. I see him all the time. Could they be a great client for me? Absolutely. How about the restaurant I love to go to? I learned through that Google search that they're doing way better than I thought they were. I talk to her at least once a quarter, the woman who owns it. Could be an amazing client for me, but she doesn't know what I do because I'm just there to eat chicken parm, right? So this is about leveraging the people that you know that are in your sphere of influence or sphere of accessibility. And with the online space the way it is today, nobody's doing in person. Nobody's thinking, what businesses are within 15 miles of me? What events are being hosted? David, what events are being hosted near you that you could speak at? Google search it. And leveraging those relationships, amazing, amazing to pull some of those people in closer. And before COVID, I used to host a weekly coffee chat, business coffee chat at my local Starbucks. My Starbucks has a table of 10. And I would say the first 10 people that want to meet me on Friday morning at 9 a.m. for business and coffee chat, DM me. And that was just my local area, and that table would be full and we'd have amazing conversations. And those people still follow me today. So start thinking outside of the box of what's possible. And Martine, with your work that you do, you have connections in real estate, mortgage, so many financial services. You could go and speak at their office on high performance habits for 20 minutes for free. And as long as you can offer your high ticket coaching program, I know somebody that does that and travels around the country talking to different financial service offices about what he does. And his coaching package is $35,000 and he's your coach forever. You do his 8-week program. He talks to you every day. And then you can message him for the rest of your life. Any questions? Oh my God. He does 3 talks a week and sells 10 of those $35,000 packages a week. No website, no social media. Not bad, right? But he's thinking outside of the box. All right, I'm going to stop. Tell me your questions. And then I'm going to tell you a story about a client. Questions? Questions? No? Elsie.
Yes, so you were saying at the very beginning not to use PowerPoint presentations.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that because of some people's, learning representation of how they actually pull in information, an hour like this of talking can be very distracting for them.
Mm.
So, and you will lose them in the first 10 minutes if there's a lot of teaching. The inspirational thing is something different, but if there is some teaching involved in it. So like some people have said, well, I at least would have loved to see a little bit of a checklist as you're going through it because they would retain it more. What is your thought on that?
Everyone I've ever gone to has been somebody who was scared to be the face of their brand and they're hiding behind the PowerPoint so they don't have to be on camera. My personal thought is I hate them. I want to know the person. I want to feel the person's energy. And my advice to my clients is not to use them unless I do have a couple clients that use them, but they don't stay behind them the whole entire time. So that could look like putting a slide up on the screen while you talk about the 10 things you need to have in place, and then getting that off the screen and being back present. We're talking engagement. So if you want your crowd to buy from you, be engaged with you, I believe you could show 2 or 3 slides and then come back. and then maybe take Q&A. Don't be behind the slides for Q&A. And again, this is all personal preference, but it also depends on your ideal client. So I had a client who was talking to attorneys, and she said to me, my attorneys come to my event, they love my event, they want to come, they want to register, and then they show up and they're all off camera. 100 attorneys, all off camera, which means they're multitasking, they're at work, they're not listening. And I said, well, you have two choices. They're not engaging with you, they're not participating, they're not asking questions. Stop using the PowerPoint and tell them ahead of time they have to be on camera or don't come. And she was like, oh. I said, tell them it's going to be interactive, participatory. You need to interact in order to get the benefits of my workshop. And her response to me was, I'm not doing that because I'll only have 5 people show up. But you would have made 5 sales because you did that. So I think it's really, I understand different learning styles and you have to do what's right for you. But I definitely would suggest going back and forth between the two if you're going to use them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Cool. Bruce.
So I look and it's been almost an hour. You've been talking the whole time.
Mhm.
And for me, it's just zip by. And I've been taking a lot of notes as you talk. And my first thought was, wow, that's a lot of time gone very quickly.
Mhm.
How did you do that? And I'm wondering if it's a few years ago, I was giving a 3-hour talk on starting a business, but the material they gave me, I thought there's no way this will fill up 3 hours.
Mm.
And it seemed that it was necessary not to talk fast, but to be always talking about something without repeating it. And so,
Yes.
am I reacting this way? And this, I guess, goes back to being very specific and having the planned agenda, is that it was, here's my point, here's my next point, here's my next point.
Mhm.
Although it was never so pressured that you didn't feel like you could raise your hand and ask the question.
Yeah.
So is that how you did that without having to use the slides?
Yes, absolutely. And I have notes that are on a, separate screen right here that's, and I have my bullet points and I know where I'm going. And I didn't tell my client story, which is like 3 paragraphs. If you want to hear it, I'll still tell it. And then the last 3 minutes is me inviting you to spend 30 days with me and get all these things in place and actually have the assets in your hand to be able to attract more people to you. And that's really it. I don't script it to the point where I'm reading it, Bruce, but I want to have that flexibility that if Bruce asks a really great question, I want to be able to go where Bruce needs me to go rather than, oh, I got to stick to my, my script. I don't like that. But you have to do what's right for you. Again, some people function better with a script. I've been doing this long enough where I don't want a script. Just tell me what I like. Do I have to show up tomorrow and talk about what? Tell me what I have to talk about. Oh, authentic connection. Cool. I'm good. How long do I have to talk? 20 minutes? Awesome. I want to do that because that's challenging for me and I like it. But if you don't like that, script yourself.
If I can chime in as someone who does public speaking coaching, despite the background I have at the moment, I think scripting is an amazing exercise if you're not 100% clear on what you want to say. I have made my clients stop and think about how would you say this in a perfect world where you could memorize this and it was effortless, and then strive for 70% of that. But the exercise of scripting it can sometimes make you think of phrases you wouldn't have otherwise. The order might be tighter. It can be very useful, maybe for your stories, not your data, but your stories. So don't rule out scripting, but don't sit there and read a script either.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that flexibility is key. My client story is scripted on my notepad because I didn't want to miss any details of that client story. And then my sales pitch to you takes me 2 minutes to read it. Will I actually read it word for word? Probably not. But at the same time, it's there. So I trust. Yes, you have to do this. Yes, here's all the words that you want to use. And that helps me stay out of the um, insecure spot, right? Um, Harmony.
Hi, hi, Suzanne. Thank you
Hi.
so much.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
yeah, that was great. I just have a question about Google search, for example, for local Google
Mm,
search for like healthy, conscious people or health fitness. Then
mm,
once I find them, what do you recommend? How should I approach them?
businesses. So, people who own those health and wellness centers or, maybe wellness centers, health food stores, those wellness centered businesses. And then you do a little bit of research and find out who the owner is.
Yes.
And maybe they live in your neighborhood. Justin.
I just wanted to share that the way that you facilitate, first off, is excellent.
Thank you.
I'm lucky to have been in front of a number of really powerful people, and your style is awesome. I also love the way that you get people emotional from your pace. Hang on to your hats. This is going to be a good ride, and then you just start putting the foot down. And I love
Yeah.
that because the reality is it's quite exciting, but it's quite difficult to take it all in and land. And then there's this feeling of, did I miss something? I want to make sure I get this right. This sounds so magical. I want to be part of the magic. And I love that because it creates that sort of sense of urgency and hunger. Um, I just sort of really realized how well you're facilitating that. And
Thank you.
also, one of the ugliest things in presentations is when people's energy shifts from educator to salesperson.
Yeah.
And when you notice that in a room, you just go, oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
And it's horrible, right?
Yeah.
And that natural segue that you've got, and just like, well, I'm here to teach. But by the way, if you want to be as awesome as me, here's the thing. I love that sort of place of abundance. Your energy is really coming from a place of abundance, not like I really hope you buy off me.
Right.
That's just very appealing and very attractive. So I just wanted to reflect that back, and hopefully that lands for everyone else too, in terms of unpacking what actually is magical in front of us.
Yeah, and I think well, I thank you for that. It means a lot coming from you. And I think when I do the full on sales pitch that I've learned from Todd Brown and Dan Henry and Taki Moore, and it's wonderful, but it doesn't sound totally like me, right? So I have to do what feels right for me within that structure. And before you guys leave, I want to say it to you. And I don't want you to listen from the standpoint of, oh, do I need to buy this from Suzanne? I want you to listen. What would it feel like if I could say about my product that I was offering? What would it be like for me to say it like that to my tribe? And because this is key, this has made me more money, and it comes from me being a dental hygienist for 20 years. Honestly, it didn't come from a sales training. It didn't come from me learning from online gurus that I paid entirely too much money to. It came from the fact, I call it healthcare selling. You're only selling to somebody if they need it. There's no pressure, there's no persuasion, there's no caring whether you get a crown on your tooth or not, or caring whether you want whiter teeth. It's like, do you want whiter teeth? Have you thought about that? No, I'm not interested in that. Cool. I don't care. No skin off my back. And this is no different. Mike, I'll take your question and then I'll go to the sales pitch.
Suzanne, you said earlier that you don't give everything away. I
Mhm.
don't know anybody who gives more away in something like this. I don't know if anybody else did. I printed off what she gave us access to. This is what you got as a sitting down
Wow.
at the, there's at least 40 or 50 pages and it's great stuff. So thank you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you for reflecting that back. All right, well, here we go. So many entrepreneurs and business owners pour endless energy into their businesses without seeing the results that they desire. The issue is not your products or your services, but a lack of clarity on the strategy in identifying and connecting with your ideal customer. Without understanding who you're selling to, where to find them, and what messages resonate with them, psychographics, demographics, pain points, solutions, your efforts can feel scattered and inefficient. And imagine the frustration spending time and money on marketing that doesn't convert. Ugh, done it, been there, done that, don't want to do it anymore. You try every tactic in the book, from social media ads, content marketing, but your returns are meager and your growth is stagnant. I've been there. I feel you. I did it for years. And it wasn't until I stopped listening to what people told me I had to persuade and sell better and talk people into it. And the best, learn to overcome objections. No, sorry, I'm not doing that. And I believe that you're wasting your resources and you're missing out on your highest potential. So I want to solve that problem. And that solving this problem comes from my market research, comes from me having 190 one-on-ones in the last year, and that 95% did not have these things in place. Defining your ideal client, discovering and knowing where they hang out, and showing up there authentically. I'm in a learning community and I show up there, and every time I show up, I have somebody interested in working with me. There's not a single other coach in that community. It's a bunch of intellectuals who like to read. I did it for fun for me, but guess what? It's landed me business and referrals. So knowing where your people hang out, crafting that messaging, and actually having that messaging in a business document, strategizing your pricing. Don't be the cheapest, and most certainly don't be the same as everybody else. So of course, what I recommend is being higher. Content pillars. How many people don't have content pillars and don't stick to them? Really important. And then a tailored marketing plan. So I talked about promoting your event for 6 to 8 weeks and following the plan. Day 1, post on YouTube, send 5 messages, like detailed marketing plan. Most don't have that. So don't take my word for it. Go to my LinkedIn profile and look at my testimonials, look at the people that I've worked with, and see what they say about working with me. With my guidance, I've transformed hundreds of clients' businesses. And if you're ready to spend 30 days with me and create all of those tangible assets, tangible, you'll have a Google Drive folder and you'll have tangible assets to take away so you know and memorize all of that stuff. I have an offer for you, and I'm going to put it in the chat. And if you click it today and you want to talk about it, that's totally fine. But if you click and purchase today, you get an additional one-on-one time with me. There's the link. How did that sound? Did it sound bad? Did it sound like I was talking you into something? No. It sounded slightly motivational, inspirational, maybe challenging.
Invitational.
Invitational. I like that.
And not so long. The length of it was a factor too.
Yes.
Even that, if you'd done it for 8 minutes, would have felt like a sales pitch, but it was the right
Yes.
length.
Yeah. Well, just like your introduction, right? If I'm talking to a room full of strangers, my introduction is 3 paragraphs. But today, I don't need to say 3 paragraphs to you guys, right? Any other questions, comments? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Justin.
I like the way that you've got your value-based reframe on things like, I've had 100 and something calls, and based on that, this is the percentage. You're
Mhm.
probably one of them. You should come and join the 5%. I love that, because and I've learned that in the past myself, and I always found it really effective. And hearing it from you, I've realized that I've stopped doing that.
Mm. Well,
That was really
I will
powerful.
tell you that market research, I can rush it. Like I'm a very impatient person, and I've put probably 60, 70 products out there in 15 years.
Mm,
Out of those products, coaching programs, standalone things, courses, there's been 4 that have made me all my money. 4 out of
mm,
between 60 and 70.
mhm.
And all 4 of those were work that I did on myself. That's it. Oh, interesting. So the health coaching program that made me millions was literally what I do to myself, how I take care of me, how I eat, how I exercise, how I think, how I breathe. Oh, well, I bought health coaching programs to try to be successful as a health coach. But what sold was me. I'm the product. You're the product. So whatever you're doing for yourself has to be part of the product. And I think that's that authentic piece. Go ahead,
I love
Bruce.
that.
So that makes me wonder, people here are probably a lot of people who sell stories and have similar programs that may or may not have been successful. So and maybe it's not quite this simple, but when you're saying, here's my program based on how I take care of myself,
Mhm.
there must have been something about the way that you did it that resonated, or why people would say, I'm going with that one, as opposed to all the other hundreds that are out there.
Mhm.
Is that so? What made that happen?
Well, I think because I was 40 years old and I looked like I was 24, that was attractive to women my age. I worked with numerous professional sports players. Where I live, there's a lot of Philadelphia sports players. They all came to my gym because the gym I worked at was a tiny little boutique gym. And you can pick out a pro football player at a gym like nobody's business, at least I can. And I had relationships with a lot of these people, and they would get to know me, and then they'd ask, well, how do you do that? How do you, how do you do that? You're 5'2" and you weigh 120 pounds. Like, how do you do that? Oh, well, I do this strength-based program, and I breathe a certain way. And yeah. And they wanted to learn it. And then their wives were like, how old are you again? 40. Huh. I'll have what she's having. So it's that product of, and same with my business coaching. Bruce, honestly, people come to my event or they hear me teach something and they're like, oh, I had no idea she knew that, or that much, or that detailed, or delivered it like that. And it wasn't until I fully embraced, I want to learn fast, I want to deliver fast, I want to over deliver. I don't want to work with people who are slow on the uptake. I don't. So let's eliminate them by being myself and not trying to be someone else. Does that make sense?
So it's not just you are proof that it works. It's that you intentionally choose to only seek out those, like in the book that you were telling me, Book Yourself Solid. You're
Mhm.
only seeking out the people who are the kind of client that you want to
Yeah.
have, and not spending time with those who are not.
Yes.
So you leverage it that way.
Yes. And I actually spend time with people getting them to be my ideal client. So, I'm investing in you. I'm investing in Drew. I've invested in Martine, right? That's not, I mean, I like you guys. Yes, but I'm pulling you along because I see your potential, not because I want you as a client someday. That's great if it happens, but I see quality people. I know who has the same values as me. Come along. Come do this. You can do it too. And I'm happy to lead the way. I'm happy to be 5 minutes ahead of my people. Happy to.
Suzanne, one thing I just want to add on the back of what Bruce was saying, because I work with Bruce, I support Bruce on his journey, is you constantly refer to your success to reaffirm yourself and to remind yourself, that's right, I kick ass.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Bruce has had a lot of success. And, you know, one of the things that I imagine this will drop for everybody is just constantly looking at the reminder. I know that I've started doing that recently. It's kind of going, oh, yeah, I've had lots of success. I need to keep looking at it, reading it,
Yeah.
remembering
Yeah.
I belong in the room. You
Yeah.
know, I'm that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I really pick up from you is that you've got that. You know, you're really like, that's right. I'm
Not
doing
all
it
the
this way.
time,
You're either with me or, you know,
but
but
not
no,
all the
I
time.
understand.
Yeah.
But
not
it
all the
comes
time.
across. It really does come across. And it comes across as I'm special. And if you want to be special, let's do special things.
Yeah.
And you know, I love that because, as you know, my thing is helping frustrated rock stars go big, and you're a classic rock star. You know, I just like, yeah,
Yes.
get it, girl,
Yes.
crush it.
You never
Anyway, I
saw
just
my
wanted to add that
Facebook
on.
picture when it was double horns and tongue sticking out. Like that was the picture for a long time.
Yeah,
And
get it.
my son told me I needed to take it down because it was embarrassing. But hey, that's what it is. I thank you for that because it's something I'll be vulnerable and I'll tell you what I did before this call. I put my earbuds in and I listened to my 3 favorite pump up songs that I absolutely love and I'm obsessed with, that just raise my vibe. And yesterday, when I was feeling like, oh, is this good? Is this what people want? I went back, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but I watched all my testimonial videos. Martine's included. And I was like, huh, I listened to it like I was listening to it about someone else. And I was like, I need to hire her. She's awesome. Oh, it's me. And that's what we need to do. If we're going to be in front of other people, you need to remember how great you are. My mentor said, remember who the fuck you are and what you've been through, what you've accomplished. You have to do that on a regular basis, all the time. Otherwise, your brain will take over and say, you're not good enough. You're too old. You're too fat. You're too this. You're too that. And you won't show up. So the alternative is remind yourself all the time. Keep a win journal, keep a gratitude journal, all of those things. I have a little bin back here of every thank you note from every single client from 15 years ago. Feeling down? Go read some of them. All right, guys. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks for being here. Thanks for
Thank you,
participating.